Hello, North Haven, and welcome to yet another edition of Sports Talk. Today we have a little bit something different to start off the show. We're going to do a Ask Justin and then Ask Jeremy segment. Basically, I'm going to give Justin a question, and he's going to give us a really in-depth answer on it, and then he's going to do the same thing for me. The question I'm going to be asking Justin is, how can the NBA fix the draft lottery system? There's obviously been a lot of buzz. They tried to fix it at the beginning of the year, implementing a new strategy where the bottom 5 teams get 11% chance to win, and then odds declining as you go forth, but it was shut down. So, Justin, how do you think it could be fixed?
Okay, so to start off my answer, I'm going to discuss both sides of the argument. So, for the side of the argument that the draft is rigged, you could look at the Cavs past, with Kyrie going there. I mean, I think Kyrie should have gone there, but when Anthony Bennett got it, I know that wasn't a great pick, but then, you get it with Andrew Wiggins. When LeBron's coming, it worked out like that, and then you could say with Derrick Rose going there. But there are some past draft moments that could support the fact that it's not rigged. Starting off with 2004 with Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard is from Atlanta. He played basketball there in high school, and the Hawks had the 6th pick that year. So I think if the draft lottery was rigged, they would have given it to the Hawks and had him stay in Atlanta. I know that's not as popular as maybe a guy like LeBron, but I mean, this is Dwight Howard. And you could also talk about Yao Ming going to the Rockets. The Rockets had an 8.9% chance of getting the first pick that year, and they get another big guy with Yao Ming back in 2002, where if you look at Rockets history with Ralph Sampson, Hakeem Olajuwon, they were been known for quality big men, and Yao Ming goes there. So you can make both sides of the argument. However, I think a solution to this problem, I personally liked it, was Bill Simmons mentioned this plan back on, I believe it was an NBA Countdown show or an ESPN, where there are 14 teams that don't make it. This will give them more incentive not to tank or go for picks, whatever. The 14 teams that don't make it play with the 8 seeds from each conference it'll take 3 days. It'll be a single elimination tournament. The winner of that tournament determines who is the 8 seed and moves on to the playoffs. That way, each seeds will matter because, to be honest, once you get into the end of the year, it doesn't matter if you're the 10 seed, 11 seed. As far as winning, you want to be as low as you can, so teams will start tanking. But this way, it'll give them incentive to win, and I think it'll make the draft lottery more fair. And then you could even move the draft lottery in the other direction where the bottom teams that didn't win have the highest % chance, but as Jeremy might agree, even if that happens, it still could be rigged if a team like, the Cavs get it. But there's both sides to the argument. I would like to see the Bill Simmons thing put into place. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, the NBA has been doing this for, years now, for the whole existence of the league. So we'll have to see what happens. It's a reasonable way. I mean, there's other ways, maybe people adding more teams into the playoffs. There's just so many different ways. If the lottery is rigged, I don't see a way to change it. The only way really to change it is to get rid of the lottery completely. But if it isn't rigged, then I guess it isn't rigged. We'll have to see what happens. But I could see there's both sides of the argument. Both sides make sense to me, and we'll have to see what happens in the upcoming years.
I will say I have always felt that the lottery was rigged, but there are always going to be examples of times where it wasn't and times where it was. I like the Yao Ming reference and the reference you had before. I'm not going to say I fully agree with it.
Yeah.
I think that the rigging aspect of it has become more prevalent in the last couple of years, maybe last decade or so, just because it seems like there's been more events where it could have happened. But I do like the idea of the system of the playoff that Bill Simmons came up with. I think that would definitely be a good way to fix the lottery system.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I could see both sides, like I said, and I guess we'll have to see in upcoming years. Jahlil Okafor is supposedly the next #1 pick. I don't think the Chicago Bulls will be unless all their starters get hurt. I don't think they'll be in a shot. But if for some reason the Bulls wound up not making the playoffs and they got the first pick, I'd have to go with that this draft is rigged. But we'll have to see in upcoming years what happens. But you can make both sides of the argument. I feel like you can go back to Yao Ming and Dwight Howard, and then maybe it wasn't rigged, and then you got the middle years with Bogut, Bargnani, Blake Griffin, John Wall, all those guys. And then you go into now with the rig, so it almost it took a break. So maybe it was winding towards it. I don't know. It's a pretty confusing one, but you can make both sides of the argument. And overall, I think there needs to be a new system put in place, whether it's get rid of it completely or just something, because I don't like the current situation, whether it is rigged or not. But
absolutely.
So I guess I'll ask you a question now. So this is something I'm not I'm not by no means an expert in. I would consider Jeremy an expert. I mean, I've never seen a kid know more about college football than this young man here sitting to the left of me. But so Jeremy, I'm going to ask you, how does the Collegiate Football Committee decide who's the top 4 teams and who will be and who makes the top 4 playoffs and goes for a championship?
So there's a lot of factors that go into this. I just have them written out here. One of them is conference champions. You look at, I think there's like 4 or 5 big conferences. You look at the SEC, obviously, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and then the ACC. They're going to look at the conference champions from those teams, and whichever teams come out of those conferences as champions are teams that are going to be looked at first. Then you're going to look at strength of schedule. Obviously, this is where SEC teams have the benefit, even teams in the Pac-12, which has become a competitive division in college football. And then even a couple teams in the Big Ten, if you have the big wins against the teams like Michigan State, Nebraska, even Ohio State right now, that's going to help you in the polls. And then you have signature wins. This is a team like Mississippi State that is really in the thick of things, that doesn't really have that signature win yet. Their best win is against the number 15 Auburn team that has acquired 2 or 3 losses at this point. So it's hard for them to really have this that's going to really propel them into the college football playoff. But as of right now, they are in as the 4 seed. And then moving on, you also have bad losses. This is where a team like Ohio State's getting hurt by it early on when J.T. Barrett was first getting into the lineup after the Braxton Miller injury. They lost at home to Virginia Tech. So obviously that's a bad loss. You know, an ACC team coming into your house and beating you there. That's obviously something that's holding them back right now. And right now they're not in it. I believe they're the 5 or 6. And then you look at head-to-head. This is where the Baylor-TCU dilemma comes into play. Baylor had beaten TCU, but a lot of people have TCU above them. So if they look at it in head-to-head, this is where a team like Baylor can possibly sneak in. So all of these are going to come into effect. The ones that are going to be weighed most heavily are going to probably be conference championship and strength of schedule. Just so this is where you could probably see 2 SEC teams possibly getting in, because since their strength of schedule is so high compared to maybe a team like an Oregon or an Ohio State, where they can propel themselves into the top 4 compared to another team like maybe an Arizona State, for example, another 2-loss team. But because they don't have the strength schedule that teams in the SEC have, they're not necessarily going to be able to contend with them.
Before I ask a follow-up,
first we do have a call.
Yeah, I think we might have a call there.
Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hi, what are your guys' thoughts about rumors that a Hamden Regional basketball team might use the triangle offense?
Thank you for your call. Justin, what are your thoughts about Hamden Regional team using the triangle offense?
I mean, if these kids are thinking about possibly playing in college or in high school, I think it's a good thing because, hey, if you could run the triangle at this level and this age group and this skill level, I think you're golden. I will say it's going to be hard. I mean, the New York Knicks are having, not that they're having trouble, but I mean, they have to adjust this. I don't know how, if the New York Knicks are still in progress, I don't know how Hamden's regional kids are going to pick it up in one practice. Nevertheless, I don't think they're going to pick it up in the whole season. I think in Hamden Regional League, you're going to stick with the classic, man-to-man on defense, maybe a pick and roll on offense, It's not going to get
all about space on the floor.
It's not going to get much like that. Is it going to be
quick passes, quick hits, jump shots for the
backdoor
win?
cuts, all that stuff?
Yeah,
it's going to be. There's really not going to be much of an offense. I mean, maybe they run a few plays, like I said, the pick and roll. But for the most part, it's just going to be guys having fun. I don't know where you heard those rumors from, but hey, if the team can pull it off, they're going to dominate.
Absolutely. And anyways, moving on.
Okay, so for my follow-up question there, in a couple minutes I'll ask you who you think will make it, but I have a quick follow-up question here. I forgot what I was going to ask you.
I can just do my 4 while
you give me your 4 and I'll think. I had a really good question for you. Yeah, I remembered it now. What do you think? Do you think that the current situation they have for this year is good enough? Do you think they should extend it to maybe 8 teams? Do you think they should keep it down to 2? What do you think?
I think that eventually, I did not agree with the 2-team system. I always felt that there was always a team that almost got the back end of the deal. They didn't seem to get the chance that they deserved. They ended up playing in like the Rose Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl, something that's not as satisfying as a BCS National Championship game. You look back a couple years, Alabama, LSU. LSU beats Alabama, and then they lose later on, and they're kicked out of the BCS National Championship game. And it's kind of a sour a sour thing for a team to see at that point. So it's hard for them to be able to not be able to play for it. I think that 4 teams definitely isn't enough. I still think at this point there's not really room for that Cinderella team you want to see. You know, there's Team Marshall undefeated right now, and they're not going to get a chance to be in it because of all the good teams. And it's going to be 4 one-loss teams, and they're going to be sitting on the outside looking in with an undefeated record. So it's going to be hard for teams like that to look on. I think that this could end up being what the NC1AA does, where it's basically the top 25 teams going and play it out. You know, you shorten the regular season to maybe 10 games compared to the 11 or 12 they play now. You give those teams an extra 2 weeks, and then who doesn't want to watch a college football playoff game? I mean, I'd love to see a team like a Marshall right now or a Boise State from a couple years back be able to play. I mean, if a team like that comes in and beats a big time team, then you talk about readjusting the whole system, and maybe you have to include a non-BCS team in the college football playoff. So I think that I think I'd go to probably 8 to maybe 10 teams. I think once you go beyond that, you kind of have a lot of teams that are borderline that if they should even make it. I mean, you're always gonna have a team that has 2 losses, but they're Johnny Manziel of the season's hurt for the first couple weeks. I mean, if Ohio State, if Barrett doesn't step up, they're possibly an irrelevant team at this point. So you're always going to have teams like that, but at the same time, it seems like there's a lot of pride in being one of the 4 teams that goes on. I think I would extend to 8 or 10. That way you have room for the teams that are coming in that are non-BCS. They're teams that can possibly pull a big upset. I mean, Boise State beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl a couple of years back. No one gave them a fighting chance, so it's always good to watch games like that.
We were watching the highlights today.
Absolutely.
Finally, give me your 4 playoffs teams. I know we kind of discuss it every week, and it probably changes every week, or maybe you see more things. But what do you think in the end will be the final 4 at this point today?
Absolutely. As of right now, bearing any upsets, I have Alabama beating Auburn at home, and moving on. I think they're going to be the 1 seed heading into the college football championship. I think a lot of people thought this was the best team before they had the Mississippi State game. When they were 6-1, 7-1, a lot of people say this is the most complete team. I mean, they had a bad week against Ole Miss, but if that's their biggest blemish going into Mississippi and losing there, that's not much compared to what an Ohio State has with a loss at home to Virginia Tech. So I think that they're definitely going to move on as the 1 seed, and obviously if they get upset by Auburn, everything changes. And then at the 2, I have Oregon from the Pac-12. They have that 1 loss to Arizona, but once again, going into Arizona's not a bad football team. I mean, they're not one of the elites right now, but they have a good offense. They run it well, and I think that if they win out like they're predicted to do so, then they're going to be the team coming out of the Pac-12 to represent that side of the country. And then 3, it's going to be TCU or Baylor, I believe. Right now, I think it's going to go to Baylor just because they're technically going to get the conference championship for the Big 12. They don't have an official game, but whoever has the best record at the end, best in conference, it's going to go to that team. And since Baylor has the win over TCU and they both have the same record, it's going to go to Baylor. So I think that might be what propels them into the college football playoff, despite TCU having more signature wins than Baylor does. And then at the 4th spot, I have Florida State, who I still don't think is a legitimate team. I wouldn't be surprised if they got in and Alabama beat them 40-20, honestly. This team doesn't play anyone all year. I mean, their biggest game is against a Notre Dame team that has turnover after turnover. I mean, they've already lost, 3 games in a row now? So I think that if that's their signature win, that's scary. And then their other signature win is supposed to be against a Clemson team that had just fallen out of the top 25. So I think that it's hard for them to make an argument, but since they're reigning national championships, they've won, I think it was 21 consecutive games. It's hard to keep them out of the playoff picture when they've run the table so far. Moving on, we're going to go back to our normal topics. We're going to go over to the NBA to start this off, talk about some off-season moves that have paid off and off-season moves that haven't paid off. So, Justin, if you could just give me one guy that you feel has done well for the team he's on now, or one guy who has struggled.
This one's tough because it was a very big offseason. For a guy who I think has very, very much stepped up, I'm going to go with Pau Gasol on the Chicago Bulls. I mean, this guy, we always knew he could score, we always knew he could rebound, but as far as he's a 34, 35-year-old player, and he is on the Chicago Bulls with if Derrick Rose is healthy, I mean, he's going to score. Jimmy Butler has picked it up big time this year. Joakim Noah just came off Defensive Player of the Year, so there's talent around him. So I don't think we were expecting him to be averaging, I think he's averaging 17 and 9 at this point, which, I mean, he's averaged in the past before, but I didn't expect it this year. I thought he was going to be more of a guy who picks it up in the fourth quarter, is a good veteran. But I mean, he's picked it up big time. A guy who I've not been impressed with as far as offseason moves. I mean, last show I mentioned Chandler Parsons as one of my upsets. But I mean, he's picked it up. I mean, he didn't have the biggest expectations going in, but as far as upsets, I'm gonna go with Kevin Love. I mean, he is on the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron and Kyrie. You're gonna suffer from a Chris Bosh syndrome. But I mean, this guy was, like we talked about last show, he could have been an MVP last year, and then he comes to the Cavs, and he hasn't been having a horrible season. But that's part of the reason why I thought he should have gone to the Warriors. I feel like he would have been a bigger part of the offense, as they would have been Curry, but I feel like if it was him, Curry, and Thompson, the scoring would have been spread out more versus with the Cavs. I mean, Kyrie could drop 25 in his sleep. LeBron could do it all. So Kevin Love's and Deion Waiters coming off the bench is going to jack up shots too. So it's going to be tough for him to get quality shots. I mean, he's going to get the rebounds, but it's hard to call him a disappointment because he is on the Cavs. But I mean, it is what it is, and his stats aren't really living up to his talent. So right now he's been an upset, but
I think the most frustrating thing about Kevin Love has to be the idea that he's already looking ahead. It seems like this season doesn't even really matter to him. I mean, there's already been rumors of him, leaving Cleveland and heading to Los Angeles next year. And if rumors like that are coming out, you almost have to ensue that he's putting it, he's saying stuff about him possibly leaving or whatever it is. And you almost want more dedication to this. I mean, the season's not even 20 games old. I mean, it's still early on. I mean, given the Cavs are struggling, but the same thing was happening in Miami when the three stars came together. So. I think it's going to be hard for these guys to truthfully really grind together and really become the team that is what they really want to be. So I think that he's got to be a little more patient with that. But we do have a call. Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hi, I have a fantasy basketball question for Justin.
Yes. Go for it.
Go on.
Right now on my fantasy team, I have LeBron and Jimmy, the Alaskan Pipeline Butler.
Okay.
Who should I start?
LeBron.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Jimmy Butler, look, I love that guy. He's been a stud this year. Dropped 32 last night to tie his career high. I don't know if you're talking about tonight, but Jimmy Butler isn't playing. So maybe you're talking about in the future, but you have to go with LeBron every night he's playing, because this guy could drop a triple-double any night against any team. I mean, it depends, too. If the Cavaliers are playing a team like the Philadelphia 76ers, I don't think you put LeBron in. Or maybe you consider putting Butler in over him just because...
No, I'm never putting anyone in over
just
LeBron.
Because if the game's a blowout, LeBron's not going to sit.
He's still going to be a part of that 60 points.
I understand what you're saying. Like 99 or 999 times out of 1,000, you're going to put LeBron in over Butler. But there's a couple situations where maybe the game...
you know what happens if you don't put LeBron James in? He's going to drop
He's going to drop triple-double, and Jimmy Butler will hurt his ankle in the first quarter. But
that's Derrick Rose.
That's Derrick Rose. Okay. But Jimmy Butler, you can't... Any other night, if those are your only two small forwards, yes, you're going to put... That's great to have both of them. You're going to switch them in and out. But if they're playing on the same night, you could put LeBron in. I know Jimmy Butler's listed at a 2 and 3, and LeBron's listed as a 3 and 4. So I'm sure you could play them both in the same night. But if it's going to come down to I have one spot for those two guys, you have to go with LeBron.
All right, getting back to the offseason moves. If I have to go with the worst offseason move right now, I mean, it's not the biggest move made. I think Vince Carter going to the Grizzlies, he struggled. I think he's averaging something like 5.6 a game, shooting like 30% from the field. Obviously, you want to see more out of this guy, given he's a veteran. He's coming towards the end of his career. But, I mean, he put up decent numbers in Dallas last couple of seasons. I kind of expected him to be more of an impact for a Grizzlies team that has been pretty successful this season so far. But, I mean, it's not a huge disappointment. We weren't expecting tons from him, but he's obviously not playing up to what you wanted him to be playing up to. The best move, I mean, I think you got to go with LeBron James by any means. Just whenever you acquire the best player in the league,
that was almost like successful. I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, that's the given one. But if you're looking for another one, maybe the Raptors keeping Kyle Lowry. That guy's kind of been the soul of that team. A lot of rumors that he was going to maybe the Suns or the Lakers or another team. I think that was definitely big. Keeping him, given he's an older guy, he's not going to be your star for the next couple of years. But I mean, they're contending in the East now. I mean, I think they're the 2 seed at the moment. So I mean, they have a group of talent. Do they have enough to beat a team like the Bulls or the Cavs if they're able to turn around? I don't know if they're at that level yet. But with DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, your guy Jonas Valanciunas.
JV. I'm going to be watching JV when I go to Colorado this spring, summer. Hopefully get his autograph.
Absolutely.
I'll bring it on the show. I'll ask him if he wants to come on the show.
But no, I think that if I were to pick the best move, getting rid of LeBron James here, I think I'd have to go with keeping Kyle Lowry.
Actually, another interesting pickup over the offseason was Darren Collison going to the Sacramento Kings. I mean, this guy was a backup to Chris Paul, and before that he was with Dallas and New Orleans.
He was with the Pacers for a little bit.
He was with the Pacers. He was always a quick guy in college and a solid point guard, but he's always been like more suited for backup or a starter on like a bad team. But he's really picked it up big time. The Kings are playing well. I mean, you can give most of the credit to DeMarcus Cousins, but this guy's been picking up his assists. He's been moving the ball around. He's been hitting big shots. So I think he was another guy who kind of came under the radar. I mean, most of it he might not have even been the starter with some offseason talks, but when the offseason was going on, some people were saying he might not even be the starter. So I mean, I think he's picked it up big time. But there's been so many moves, and I want to see some more basketball before I make a final decision.
Yeah, definitely a lot of moves this offseason. We do have a call. Welcome to Sports Talk. Hello?
Hi, I love sports just as much as you do.
Uh-huh.
But the roads are bad. Get your rear end home.
All right, thanks, Mom. All right,
Who was
moving
that?
on. Moving on. Obviously, there's been a lot of debate with how good the number one team in the college basketball world, the Kentucky Wildcats, are. A lot of top 25 guys in the recent college recruiting. Andrew Harrison and the Harrison twins ended up staying, so they're sophomores in the system. Obviously, this is a great team. And then you look at a team like the 76ers in the NBA, a team that's 0-13 at the moment, not doing well at all. Justin, do you think the Kentucky Wildcats could beat the Philadelphia 76ers?
This one is tough because, I mean, you see.
Hang on, I'm going to hold you up. We have another call.
We have another call. This is a record, this show.
Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hey, you can't go home. This is Sports Talk. Listen.
What's going on,
I
Coach?
want to know what you guys think of the state of the Giants. A good friend of mine argue all the time about if Coughlin's done. I think he's done. And what was up with that pick Eli threw in the end zone? And I want to know your take on the Dallas-Philadelphia game for tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. All right, so we got Dallas-Philly. We'll talk about that last. The state of the Giants, it's hard to let Tom Coughlin go. How much success the Giants have had in the last couple of years that he's been there. I mean, it seems like there's always ups and downs with the Giants. They win the Super Bowl, they're 7-9. They win the Super Bowl, they're not making the postseason. It's hard to really put a label on this guy. It seems like every time he's done, the next year they're winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's his fault that the team is doing as bad as they are. I don't think he has the best group around him. I mean, the offensive line, it feels like they've been sketchy for the last 2 to 3 years. The defense is there, but it's not. Some games they're playing really well, and some games they're struggling. It seems like the defensive line is always better on paper than they are on the field. So I don't know if all the blame can go to him, but it's hard, too, because Eli Manning has such a good relationship with the guy. I mean, Tony Dungy stayed with Peyton Manning as long as he could, but then Tony Dungy leaves, and the Colts go to the Super Bowl with Jim Caldwell as head coach. So it's hard to really put a label on this. I mean, if I'm the general manager of the Giants, I would see what was possibly out there coming to replacing Tom Coughlin. You know, if I see a guy, maybe like last year when the Bears Lovie Smith, if you see a guy like that, maybe you're intrigued to let him go because you think you can reel in a guy like Lovie Smith. Overall, I think this Giants team really can be set to be successful in the next couple of years. I mean, look at the offense. It seems like they're filled with rookie studs. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr., a guy I've liked since they drafted him, and he makes this big catch, and superstardom comes his way.
Is it catch of the NFL?
It's
like
definitely,
ever?
it's definitely. I don't know if it's best catch ever. It's definitely catch of the year, no question. But
we got Thanksgiving tomorrow. It could be some better catches.
You look at I mean, Andre Williams, their running back rookie out of Boston College, was a Heisman candidate last year. Has been playing well. He seems like he always got 50 yards, touchdowns. So I think overall this team's in good condition. Dallas versus Philadelphia. Holden, I can't pick you up right now. We're mid topic here. Dallas versus Philly. I think just because Mark Sanchez is there, if this is Nick Foles, it's a different story. I think Dallas is going to take it. You know, it's not December yet, so Tony Romo will have a decent game. I think that Philly's been playing well, but it seems like whenever they play a team that's good, not like below 500, that they seem to struggle. I mean, the Packers demolished them, and then it seems like they handled the Panthers well. So I think I'm going to take Dallas in that game. Justin, your thoughts on the Giants?
On the Giants, I don't think they're ever done. You can never count this team out. I mean, how do you go 7-9 and then win the Super Bowl? I mean, I guess you can call it gum on the helmet catch luck all you want, but look, I mean, they beat the Patriots. There wasn't that only play of the game. It's hard for me to say, but they deserve the win. And I don't think they're done. I don't think you could fire the head coach on this one. For some reason, this would be to me like if the Spurs fired Greg Popovich. It almost seems like that kind of relationship. Or what if the Patriots fired Bill Belichick, or not fired him if they let him go, or maybe he retires. But this is a tough one. I mean, he's a great coach. They do have young talent, as you said. I think if they pick up their offensive line, protect Eli Manning. I mean, he's won 2 Super Bowls. He can get it done. I think they have the weapons on offense. They just need that offensive line to stay there, and maybe you could add a couple guys on defense. And I think this team is heading in the right direction. And as you mentioned, if the Eagles continue to struggle, I mean, the Cowboys, who knows what's going to happen? Maybe if they hurt from within and the division's wide open.
I think the Giants are definitely done for this season. I don't think
there's no chance they make the playoffs in your
No,
opinion?
not this year. This year, I think that Dallas and Philly, it's too crowded in that division right now. But I think that
They're heading
they
in the
could
right
definitely
direction.
do it next year. I mean, you don't know what this team's capable of. It seems like they rebuild without truly falling to the bottom. I mean, it seems like even when they're rebuilding, they're like 6-10. They're
Even
not
last year,
horrible.
after that,
They're winning.
what was it, 0-6?
0-6,
and then they were in the
almost-
playoff race
It seemed
last
like they
year.
were winning games left and right. So it's really hard to ever count this team out. I mean, any New York team, they're always going to have high expectations for. But it seems like this team almost always lives up to them, despite what's going on around them.
But as far as the Dallas-Philly game, I think this is going to be a good game, and it is Thanksgiving. However, I'm going to have to go with the Eagles here. But one more thing about the Eagles. I think we talked about earlier in this show, past couple weeks, that Darren Sproles was a good signing. However, I think he kind of messed up the chemistry a little bit. I mean, LaShawn McCoy was, and as you mentioned last week with your dad having him on his fantasy team, and he's been sort of a bust in his head. I think kind of messed up the chemistry a little bit. I mean, they definitely have the talent there. I think if they could, mold it all together, this team is an elite team. But as of right now, I think when he came in, they did mess up the chemistry a little bit, and that could be why they're not, undefeated or only with 2 or 3 losses. But this will be a good game tomorrow. I'm going to give the slight edge to Philadelphia, and I think honestly, whoever wins this game is going to win the division.
Oh, so
it is a big game.
Statements from Justin. I believe this is Holden on the line again. Welcome to Sports Talk.
It's about damn time.
What are you holding?
Now, I'm sick of football. Let's talk baseball and how Fat Panda and Hanley Ramirez are going to the Sox. How is this shaping up next season?
All right. I think that I don't think the Red Sox are done this offseason. I think that they're going to go hard after John Lester, try to bring him back to Boston. If that doesn't work, I see them going over Max Scherzer. With all the trading assets they have, I mean, there have been rumors of people seeing if Bogarts is available, maybe put Ramirez at shortstop to clear up that crowded outfield. I mean, you look at the outfield the Red Sox has right now. They have Rusney Castillo, the next Yasiel Puig, supposedly. Hanley Ramirez expected to play left field. And then you have Cespedes, Alan Craig, Jackie Bradley Jr., Daniel Nava. A lot of guys could be traded here. I see them either acquiring Lester, and if they don't acquire Lester, I can see them going with trying to sign Max Scherzer, pry him away from Detroit, and then going out and trying to trade and acquire a guy like Cole Hamels, a guy that the Phillies have said is available. I think if they can put together some of those prospects, I mean, Cespedes supposedly wants out of Boston. If they can send him in a trade deal, I mean, I'm sure he'd go to Philadelphia, and then they get Cole Hamels in exchange. You have Clay Buchholz, and then you'd potentially have Scherzer, Lester, and then possibly Cole Hamels in that rotation.
That team's like the dream team. That sounds like a Yankees
team. That team becomes serious. And then you look at what they would have. I mean, you have David Ortiz still there, Dustin Pedroia still there, possibly keeping Mike Napoli there. I mean, Alan Craig was basically what got the Cardinals to the World Series when the Red Sox played them. And third base has really been a problem for them. Sandoval, I think, ever since Youkilis went to Chicago and then eventually ended up with the Yankees, it seems like third base has been a problem for them. Shortstop, with Bogarts moving there, I think that puts him in more of his natural position, so I think that's definitely going to help them. and then the outfield's stacked. I mean, you have a lot of talent on that team. I'm not going to put them in a World Series fit-in as of right now. I think Detroit's still got a good team. You look at, the Royals.
The Orioles.
If they can. I mean, the Orioles are there too. I think the Orioles will depend on if they're able to get Nelson Cruz back. But that's just a really stacked team, and all the players. You got to think that they're gonna do some kind of trade to acquire a starting pitcher somewhere. So I think that this team definitely isn't done, and they're definitely improving a lot.
Well, being a Yankee fan, it's not good news with the Red Sox signing somebody big. However, I'm going to agree with you, Jeremy. I don't think if the World Series started today and say you throw Red Sox versus anybody, maybe the team chemistry is not there, but I don't know if they could win. I think, like you said, I think they need some starting pitching, and I think they need to. And it's a good situation for them. They need starting pitching, and they need to clear out some outfield spots, and they have a good talent in the outfield, so they could, swap it with a team like the Phillies.
I mean, you look at what they got when John Lester they traded to get Cespedes. I mean, if you can simply straight up say Phillies will trade you Cespedes and one other guy, maybe it's Nava from the outfield as well, and you get Cole Hamels. I mean, that's a steal right there, and a guy that's possibly not even going to be playing on your team come next spring.
Yeah, and I mean, if you get a guy like Cole Hamels, I mean, that guy, he's going to be a veteran. He's going to help out the team big time, and I think Hanley Ramirez should go into the shortstop spot. I mean, he's not the best defensive shortstop, but I think that you need to have that outfield open up for some of the younger talent to move in and maybe work them in. Because, I mean, what's his name? Jackie Bradley Jr. He's not the best hitter, but I mean, he's a solid outfielder, and I think if you keep working on him, I mean, this guy could be a solid leadoff hitter. And I just think the best case scenario for them would be slide Hanley Ramirez into the shortstop spot and maybe trade.
If you trade Bogarts and you put him in another package deal, you can get Cole Hamels that way too. Cespedes and Bogarts.
And then the hitting's going to be there with Alan Craig.
I mean, the thing is, are they willing to trade their number one prospect in Xander Bogaerts to move Ramirez there? I mean, if you're paying big money for Ramirez, I believe it was like a 4-year, $80-something million deal. I mean, you got to think that they really see a lot in him.
And you're not going to have him come off the bench or DH. So yeah,
exactly. Going back to, can a bad NBA team beat a good college basketball team? Justin, what are your thoughts?
This one is tough because we haven't seen guys in Kentucky play in the NBA level yet. I mean, part of the reason, I think it's almost as if, like, let's put the Philadelphia 76ers roster, put it as a team. Say they replace let's say they play UConn, and they play all the games UConn's got to play. I mean, I think this team goes undefeated. But if you put the Kentucky team in the NBA, are they 0-13 right now? What do you think? I don't know. But I don't know if it's head-to-head. I mean,
I think it depends on how you look at it. If it's a one and done, whoever wins on the floor wins. I think if there's a best of 7, I think Kentucky steals a couple of games on the 76ers. I don't know if they win the 7-game series.
These are professional athletes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're talking about a team that's producing potentially 5 first-round picks. I mean, potentially their starting 5 can all go in the first round come next NBA draft. So to say that team couldn't contend with one of the NBA's worst is a very hard thing to argue. I think that the only reason why I would say the 76ers could win is because Noel was a star on Kentucky. He was, the guy
and he was
there.
Doing well
and
there.
He was playing very well until he tore his ACL. Then you look at Michael Carter-Williams. He was the guy for Syracuse.
True.
And he won the Rookie of the Year last season. He was playing well as well. And then you have veterans on that team. I mean, it really depends. I think if it's a one and done, I think the NBA players are going to say, hey, we got to prove that we're legitimate here. They're going to go out and they're going to beat the Kentucky team. But if it's a best of 7, I can definitely see the 70.
So you could see maybe like if they win 4-2.
I could see it going to the 6th game.
6th game.
I don't think it goes to a 7th game.
I don't. This one's tough. I mean, there's always a debate like last year with could Alabama beat Jacksonville, and I think that's a little different because if you look at the 76ers this year, I mean, they have young guys. So, like, Noel is a rookie. Carter Williams is a second-year player. They could easily be in college right now playing in that level. And, I mean, they have Hollis Thompson there. Tony Rotwin's there. So they have talent, but it's young talent. And even if Embiid was there, I mean, he's only a year out of college. So, like, technically they could be competing with them. It's tough. But
Noel stays, he's a, junior right now? So he still technically could be a college player. It's not like these guys stayed all 4 years and then went. I mean, even John Wall would be barely getting out if he stayed all 4
Yeah,
years.
he'd be a senior, I think. But
Yeah.
so this one's tough just because of the young talent and the fact that there's veterans, maybe they play a role in it, and I think a big
These
thing
guys
is
were successful at the college level if they got drafted. So you have to think if you're putting them up against
Other
other
college
college athletes are going to play well.
and
but
we
then,
don't know how those other college at Kentucky are going to do in the NBA. They could be a bust.
But also, the thing that could be said to counter that is Kentucky is better than a normal college team.
Yes.
They're not like the Tennessee team you're going to play that they're going to play soon. It's a different element. I mean, you're talking about 5 guys. I mean, you look at that Cauley Stein, the Harrison twins, just crazy amounts of length, strength, and just pure skill on that team. So it'd definitely be a challenge for that team. I mean, would they go out and beat a middle of the range NBA team? Maybe like a Bucks
if they
team
played
or
the
something?
Bucks, there's no way they would win. Absolutely no way.
Yeah, so it's hard to judge it. I mean, you're like you said, a lot of those 76ers kids are young kids, so you're almost comparing them to another college team.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
It is tough. I almost think of it like 76ers are 0-13, but if Kentucky had the same exact schedule, would they be 0-13 as well? If they took their, I don't know. I don't know if they've had a couple wins, but.
Moving on, we're going to have one last question within the NBA. Justin, who do you think right now has the best front court in the league?
The best front court in the league. This one is a tough question, but if we're going to talk about as far as depth goes, I think you have to go with the Denver Nuggets because, I mean, you have Wilson Chandler as a shooting guard, power forward. Kenneth Faried's there, coming off a great summer. I mean, there's been rumors he's been having, front office issues and maybe he's leaving soon or he wants to get traded, but he's been getting low minutes. But if he's getting the minutes, he's a good player. JaVale McGee's there. Timothy Mozgov's there. Darrell Arthur's coming off the bench. Who else is on that bench? Danilo Gallinari's there too. I mean, they just have great depth. I mean, these aren't the greatest guys in the world. And I think if you're talking about biggest depth, if you're talking about best starting front court in the league, I think you have to go with, I don't know, I got to think this one. Maybe some people could say the Cavaliers with, LeBron, Love, and Anderson.
Yeah, I was going to say the Cavaliers.
I mean, but then do they have depth? I mean, coming off the
True.
bench, they have, Sean Marion, and that's almost it. I mean, they have Tristan Thompson too, but it's a tough question. But if you're going to go with depth, I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets of having the best overall with all players in it. It's going to be the Denver Nuggets.
I mean, there's a lot of teams you can go with this. Maybe look at the New Orleans with Davis and Omer Sheik for the defensive presence.
With Evans.
Exactly, Evans at the 3. So there's definitely a lot of ways you can go with it. I mean, you could say Houston solely because of Dwight Howard's presence down there. I mean, maybe you look at a team like the Mavericks with Dirk and Chandler for the same reasons as New Orleans, just Dirk being the scorer and then Tyson Chandler just there for the defense. I mean, that team went on to win a championship before Chandler had left to go to New York. And then maybe you can consider even a team like New York solely because Carmelo Anthony is a part of it. So it's hard to really judge it. It's not like really a backcourt like where you can throw guys like Curry and Thompson versus Wall and Beal. Like which one of those is better? Because you could solely have. I mean, you could say you could say Oklahoma City with Kevin Durant and Ibaka and Perkins. I mean, I think that team would be legitimate if they did get Pau Gasol in free agency. That was a move I really wanted to see. I mean, going to the Bulls, obviously, that made them a contender, but I really wanted to see Gasol go to the Oklahoma City team. I think that would have been a huge improvement for them.
Another honorable mention I forgot to mention was the Portland Trailblazers with Aldridge, Robin Lopez, Nick Batum at the 3, Thomas Robinson coming off the bench. They signed Chris Kaman, who had a big game the other night. I think he dropped 20. So they have depth too. This one is tough. Like you said, it's not as easy as comparing, Wall and Beal to Curry and Thompson because you could bring up stats, you could bring up just pure shooting.
Not only that, it's 3 people compared to 2. And then you could even say the Clippers with Griffin and Jordan.
And even Matt Barnes is a solid player. But it's tough because it's very rare you're going to find a front court with 3 stars.
Yeah.
With a 3, 4, and 5 as stars. It's very rare. One guy is going to be, just a role
2
player.
Or like a 1. Or even the big 3, like Wade and Bosh are forwards, and then LeBron and Bosh are forwards, and then Wade is the 2.
And then who's their center? Who's their power forward? Udonis Haslem. So you can't consider them. So it's a tough question, but you could look at it many different
there's
ways.
definitely a lot of teams. I mean, you can even talk about maybe the Kings with Cousins and Rudy Gay there. So
Jason Thompson. Yeah, they have some depth. Yeah, so
you could definitely go a lot of ways with that. Moving on, we're going to talk about the NFL. Right now, I want you to give me the best team in the National Football League that's not going to make the playoffs.
Best team that will not make the playoffs. This one is a tough one, but I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks because I've been saying...
You guys are all counting the Seahawks out,
not that
man.
they're bad, but I just think... And I think they have the talent and they deserve to be in the playoffs, but I just don't think it'll happen this year. Listen, I'd be happy if they prove me wrong. I want them to get in, but I think if anybody's not going to make it, and if we're talking about best team that's not going to make it, and the Seahawks don't, they're clearly the best team that won't make the playoffs. So I think the Cardinals are going to turn around and win this division. I mean, I've been saying since the beginning of the year, the Cardinals, this is their division, and I don't think the Seahawks are even close to the team they were last year. So if any team's not going to make it, I think the Seahawks won't, and they're obviously the best team that, I mean, they're coming off the Super Bowl, and they were predicted to win the Super Bowl by some people. So if they don't make it, I think they're clearly the best team that's not going to make the playoffs. But
I'd like to revisit a topic we had on the show. I think it was a couple weeks ago about which teams we felt would make the postseason, and a lot of us went against the idea that there wouldn't be two teams coming out of the NFC West just because of depth around the league.
And
but
they
going
hurt each
back
other.
to that, I think that there potentially could be three teams coming out of the NFC West with the 49ers, Seahawks, and the Cardinals. Because you looked at the North, and we almost had the Lions as a shoo-in for a playoff spot, but they didn't look good the last couple games they've played. Even games they won, they were kind of struggling, limping to the finish line. Then you look at the NFC South, there's really going to be one team coming out of the division.
Yeah.
It's going to be whoever wins the division. And then the East, you have Dallas and Philly. I think Dallas gets in, but Philly, Nick Foles goes down. Mark Sanchez looks good in the first few games he played, or in the first game he played, but the last two, even with the win they had last week, I didn't think Mark Sanchez looked like he did in the first game. So you have to wonder if the Eagles are going to limp to the finish line and maybe sneak in with a wild card spot, or if two teams from the NFC West really assert themselves. And I think the 49ers are ready to do it, and I think the Seahawks are ready to do it. And the Seahawks, they don't have the same killer mentality they had last season. They're the hunted now. They're not the hunters. They're the team that everyone's got on their schedule and they want to pull that upset off. I mean, you look at the Rams were the team that wanted to do this in the past couple weeks. I think that right now, I think you could easily see two teams coming in just because the Cardinals, even if they lost out, they'd still be a 9-7 team, which normally will get you into the postseason. And then I believe Seattle and San Francisco, I believe San Francisco was like 7-4, and Seattle might be 6-4, 7-4. They're about the same record, and you got to think if those teams can at least get to the 9-win mark.
Maybe all three teams.
Maybe all three teams could end up 9-7. I mean, I don't think the Cardinals are going to lose out by any means, but if all three teams are hovering around that 10-6, maybe 11-5, 9-7 mark, I can see all three teams being. I mean, we saw it last season with the AFC West. You had the Chargers, Chiefs, and Broncos all get in, and with a lack of depth around the rest of the conference, I think that you can potentially see that. But if I was going to pick a team that is the best team that's not going to make it in, I think you could look at a team like maybe the Steelers with all the talent they have on offense with Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Ben
Holden's guy, Ben
Roethlisberger.
Roethlisberger.
Martavius Bryant's been stepping up as their two. And right now they're in a really clumped up division in the AFC North with you can basically pick any team from the AFC North. I mean, excluding maybe the Browns. People really are kind of looking at them. I think their defense has really played well. Brian Hoyer seems to get it done. He seems to be that game manager that makes the big plays.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of Brian Hoyer.
Josh Gordon coming back.
I mean, that's another weapon there on the offense. Really, any team for the AFC North, I think right now you can consider a good team. Maybe you look into the AFC East, a team like the Dolphins. They're in the thick of things right now. But where they are right now, it seems like they have some tough games coming up. It's going to be important to see if they can win those. I mean, they hung with the Broncos, arguably the best team in the AFC, for as long as they did. And then I think they lost at the end a field goal or a missed opportunity late at the end of the game. So you got to think that could be a team. I mean, the Bills played very well against the Jets. That's another team that could possibly not get in. So it seems like you can go a lot of places with it.
To be honest, when you asked me the question, I was kind of I forgot who I was going to say, or not. I didn't forget. I kind of didn't think of it. So I was kind of like trying to think of something quick. I think the Seahawks won't make the playoffs, and that would be the best. But another team you could add would be maybe the Detroit Lions. I mean, you mentioned the Packers are a legitimate team. I mean, they beat the Eagles, which isn't a great win, but they are a good team. So I think if the Packers win, and as you mentioned, if three teams from the NFC West make it, then if the Packers win the NFC North,
The Lions
are out, and I think they're a good team. Also, you could look at the AFC West with the Broncos, Chargers, and Chiefs. I think if, say, the Broncos win, I think the Chargers and Chiefs are two pretty good teams that aren't making it, specifically the Chargers. So do you think the Chargers will get a wild card, or do you think they're...
I think it's going to come down to a lot of people almost counted the Chiefs out before they had that signature win against the Patriots on Monday Night Football. A lot of people thought this team was going to be the playoff team that falls off heading into the next season. But Alex Smith is a guy that just wins football games. It seems like everyone never really says he's a good quarterback. He always kind of goes under the radar, but he always seems to get the job done, regardless of what his stats are.
Similar to like Brian Hoyer.
Absolutely. And then you look at Jamal Charles, the signature running back there, and that defense has been playing well. They have been playing well all season. I think that what it's really going to come down to for the Chiefs and the Chargers is who wins the games that they're not favored to win. You got to obviously win the games you're supposed to win, and I think both those teams do that to a premium. They do it pretty well. I mean, regardless, you're going to drop a couple here and there that you should have won. But I think that the Chiefs and Chargers both do it well, and it's going to be who can pull an upset against the Broncos. I mean, you saw the Chargers do it earlier in the season with the win against the Seahawks, the Chiefs with the win against the Patriots, and I believe they also beat the Seahawks. So if it's going to come down to which one of those teams wins down the stretch, I don't think we're going to see two teams out of the AFC West this year. I think a team like the Bills can do it, can come in through the AFC. I think any team from the AFC North can do it if they get hot. And even the AFC South, I'm not counting the Houston Texans out just yet. Obviously, Ryan Mallett going down, they're going to have to go to Tom Savage, a quarterback they drafted this year. I don't think he's ready to go, but you still have Arian Foster right there, and he could easily go for 250 yards any day on any team. So I'm not counting them out yet. Their defense is going to have to step up, obviously, but I think if they can figure out the quarterback situation and get a solid guy there, I think that they could potentially make a run.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams who won't make it, obviously, who are good teams, but
happens every year.
It's going to be tough to debate at the end of the season who was the best team that didn't get in, who got quote unquote ripped off, and
it's going to be a big debate if it's going to have the NFC as well, because the South, I mean, we could potentially see an eight-loss team getting in, and a team like the Seahawks who could potentially go 9-7, 10-6, and I mean, you saw the Cardinals last year go 10-6,
not get in,
and they didn't get in. So it's
unfortunate how it works, but I mean that's how it works.
I mean, there have been rumors of Roger Goodell discussing with committees to potentially change the system because of what's happening in the NFC South.
So are they just kind of going to do it like
it could be similar to what the NBA does, top 8 teams, and then.
Well, oddly enough, with the just really quick side note, with the NBA, a lot of people don't know this, but if you win your division in the NBA, regardless of your record, you're in. So, it's not going to happen.
It seems to be a problem.
Yeah, you're never going to see a horrible division where a below 500 team is going to get in. But I mean, that's an odd rule. I mean, that you don't. Yeah. When they say division basketball, you're like, what? Like, doesn't mean anything.
It just seems like it's conference.
Yeah.
But moving on. We're going to talk about a quarterback, so it seems we have to say something about him on the show.
Of course.
But we're going to say what quarterback we feel is not elite at the moment, but can take the next step within the next couple years. Justin, who do you think?
Not elite now, but can take the next step. I'm going to think of a guy like, maybe I'm going to go with Cam Newton here, because earlier in his career, a lot of people were saying, give him 2 years, he's going to be not maybe a top 5 QB, but he's kind of slipped off this year. I mean, where are the Panthers this year? The division is wide open. They should be, after winning last year, they should be running away with this division. But obviously losing Steve Smith was a tough loss, but
I mean, Kelvin Benjamin has stepped up for them.
He stepped up. I mean, you have to win these games that they're playing, and you can't give all the blame to Cam Newton, because was he hurt in the beginning of the year?
I mean, the big thing with Cam Newton right now has been the offensive line has been struggling. He's been hurried a lot. So
I think if this offense picks up, if the receivers continue to grow, get older, work with him, I think this guy will take the next step. And especially with the Saints struggling, the Buccaneers, I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. And who's the other team in that division? The Falcons. The Falcons, I think they're mediocre. I think it would be them and the Falcons battling for it. And another guy you mentioned, Matt Ryan, who you might talk about later, but. So I think it's going to be Cam Newton who will ultimately take that next step and be the next elite QB. But there's plenty of other candidates.
I think I have 2 guys that really come to mind. You look at a guy, Ryan Tannehill, struggled mightily at the beginning of the season. I mean, rumors of the head coach getting fired, or it's going to be him getting traded or the head coach getting fired, and it seems like he's come to life almost. The receiving core around him has gotten better. I mean, they have Mike Wallace now. Charles Clay, tight end's been successful. Brian Hartline always seems to be an underrated player that seems to always get it done every year. But I think he's definitely got a good team molding around him. A young running back in Lamar Miller. The defense there is really underrated. I believe they're like the third-ranked defense in the league right now. So it seems like they're always a team that just needs to come together, and once they do, they can seriously.
I mean, they had those off the field problems last year with the.
That's really what crippled them. So I think that team or that quarterback right there, and Ryan Tannehill, could be a guy that takes it to the next step. Another guy you think of is Matthew Stafford. I mean, this guy threw for 5,000 yards 2 years ago. A lot of people forget about that. I think what is stopping him from becoming an elite quarterback is winning football games. I think this guy needs to become much more consistent than he is. Seems like every year the Lions start out well. Everyone's they can be a serious contender, and then they start losing. They start falling apart. I think if he's able to prevent this somehow, that he can definitely put his name up in the top 5 quarterback conversation. But until he's able to seriously lead teams into the playoffs, I mean, there was one year he made it, but he was ousted first game. So I think if he can consistently make the postseason and then be able to maybe steal a couple games and maybe make a Super Bowl run, I think that's when you really start hearing this guy's name in the elite quarterback conversation.
I think they need some more weapons on that Lions team besides Megatron.
I mean, Golden Tate was a good addition, but it still seems like they need a couple more guys.
They got Reggie Bush, but I think they need another receiver on the opposite side before Matt Stafford's going to be that elite QB. But I definitely agree. I think he could take that next step within the next couple of years.
Absolutely. Moving on, obviously this draft was stock full of receivers. It doesn't look like there's going to be one as heavy coming into this season. But, Justin, I want you to tell me who you think is going to be the best receiver from this draft. You got guys like Jordan Matthews, Odell Beckham Jr., Mike Evans, Sammy Watkins, and Kelvin Benjamin. Who do you think is going to be the best?
I'm going with the number 4 guy you just said, Sammy Watkins. I mean, as you mentioned, a team that could possibly make the playoffs in the AFC is the Buffalo Bills. And Sammy Watkins is... He's not by any means a top 5 wide receiver right now, but I mean they were giving this guy the ball. This isn't the NBA where you're giving the guy the ball to take out the final shot. I mean they're trusting him to catch the ball and make some good moves on the line. He's explosive off the line, and they're giving him the ball in the fourth quarter when they need that win, and then he catches that touchdown pass. I believe that was week 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. It was earlier in the season.
Caught one earlier. I think it was week 10. He had another big catch.
I mean. He's only going to grow from here. I mean, I loved him I loved how the Bills traded up. That was my favorite move on the draft day, getting Sammy Watkins. I mean, just his name, it just sounds cool. The guy sounds like he sounds like your stereotypical NFL wide receiver. Just that name, his build. He's just a big guy. He's strong on the line. He's very athletic. He'll run you out of the gym or the field in this case. But I think this guy, he's going to take the next step, become that next QB. I mean, that next wide receiver who will. Become an elite, and I think ultimately he'll be the best wide receiver out of this class. I'm not going to call him a Hall of Famer yet or competing with Jerry Rice for that top spot, but out of this draft class, I'm going to go with him. But, I mean, you mentioned some great other names there, specifically Odell Beckham Jr. with his possible catch of the year the other night. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to go with Sammy Watkins as being the best wide receiver coming out of this draft class.
Obviously, Odell Beckham is going to get a lot of nods from the fans, especially Giants fans. A great catch he made against the Cowboys. I think he's definitely got a lot of promise. A guy that I definitely have a lot of respect for, and I think will definitely be successful in the coming years. But you look at maybe a guy a lot of people are forgetting is Jordan Matthews on the Eagles. This guy's kind of sitting behind Riley Cooper and Jeremy Maclin at the moment. Rumors that Cooper could be on his way out because of contract talks not going his way. I mean, if this guy steps into the 2 and plays extremely well, I mean, Jeremy Maclin and him could be similar to what Deshaun Jackson was when he was there. I think that Jordan Matthews definitely has a lot of potential. Quick guy. Seems like he'd become one of Mark Sanchez's favorite targets. So I really like what he's been able to do. Mike Evans from Tampa Bay. This guy seems like he has no quarterback. It's either Mike Glennon or McCown over there, and he just continues to put up crazy numbers. Always seems like he's got a 100-yard game and a touchdown. So I really like what I see of him.
He's being mentored by Vincent Jackson. The
absolutely. And then if I was to pick one guy, though, I think it's definitely going to be Kelvin Benjamin. This guy's big, physical receiver, basically a tight end set up on the outside. And the scary part is he's so raw right now. It's all his potential that's allowing him to produce these numbers that he's producing. If this guy really, gets into his route running, really begins to work out and really, form around this team, I think that he's going to be a scary guy in the NFL. I mean, what he's able to do, he's fast. It seems like every jump ball he's coming down with. I mean, right now, obviously, his team isn't doing as well, but him and Newton seem to be one of the few things that's going right for the Panthers this season. And I think that is definitely going to be the best receiver out of this draft, just because of how much potential he has that's untouched. I mean, if this guy becomes better at what he's doing as a receiver, he's going to be one of the best we're going to see in a long time.
So would you say out of those 5 QBs, wide receivers, which one has the best QB throwing to him?
Best QB thrown to him. I mean, I think you got to eliminate Mike Evans from that with McCown and Glennon.
I mean, I would probably bring in between Beckham Jr. and Benjamin. As far as
Benjamin, I mean, maybe you could throw Nick Foles when Nick Foles in that case. So you have those 3 guys. I mean, one of the 3 has rings with Eli Manning. I mean, not that rings decide everything
as we've debated on the show before.
But obviously, it's good to have a guy with experience down the stretch on your team. And then Nick Foles still kind of young. You know, he's had one good year. He was playing decently this year, and then he goes out, so we don't really see a lot from him. And then Newton, obviously one of the best rookie years from a quarterback in NFL history. And then kind of fell off last season, wasn't as good, still a good season. And then this year has just kind of been a disaster for Panthers. So I think if I had to pick one, I think I'd definitely go with Eli Manning, though.
Okay.
Absolutely. And Justin.
Yeah.
With your love for basketball,
okay,
do you think that kicking a game-winning field goal or hitting a game-winning shot is harder to do?
Game-winning depends. How far is a field goal?
Depends on how hard of a shot the shot is for NBA.
So are we talking like a Derek Fisher touch shot with 0.6 seconds left?
Yeah, that's like a 60-yard field goal for a kicker.
Okay, hitting a 60-yard... I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to put up 10 60-yard field goals and 10.6 touch shots, I think you're going to hit more of the field goals than the jump shots.
All right, how about a free throw compared to
an extra point?
Like basically an extra point.
What's harder? I'm going to go with an extra point as far as that goes, because a free throw it's called a free throw for a reason. You're standing there, you're a professional basketball player, you need to hit that jump shot, especially in a playoff game or in a key situation. As far as extra points go, I mean, you got a guy trying to block the kick, the crowd's loud if you're in an away game, the snap might not be the greatest, the holder's got to put down a perfect thing, so it's definitely the extra point over a free throw. But as far as game winner goes over field goal, I think a game-winning touchdown pass.
What if it's like a 30-yard field goal compared to like a wide-open 3? Like, guy swings in, you got a wide-open shot.
I got to go with that basketball. But if it's a game-winning touchdown pass over a game-winning jump shot, I'm going to go with a touchdown pass.
All right. I like it. Interesting.
What are your opinions on that?
I don't know. I think that the touchdown pass depends on the situation. If it's goal line, you have such a clustered area. I mean, all the defenders likely playing zone, so it seems like it's all covered up. And then game-winning jump shot. I mean, if it's a contested shot, it's a contested shot. That's a tough shot to hit any time in the game, regardless of whether it's for a game winner or just an average jump shot in the game. So, I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd probably say that the jump shot's harder to hit, just because it seems like when anyone gets in that 4th and 1, they always seem to find the guy because defense is only rushing 3 or whatever it is. Someone seems to always get open. So I think that that's definitely got to be the hardest shot with
and a lot of times too, what jump shots are
contested.
I'll make this really quick. If you're playing the Cavs and you know LeBron's getting the ball, you're gonna play defense based on that. So that's why it's tough. It's going to be hard either way, but.
Well, that's all we have for this edition of Sports Talk. I'm Jeremy Farina.
I'm Justin Palillo.
We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
Happy Thanksgiving, by the way.